All right, we're good. So you're in Oakland, right?
Yep. Yep. Oakland.
Cool.
Yeah, where are you at?
I'm in South Carolina.
Oh, wow. All right.
So, but the beauty of technology is we can do this like we're in the same room.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's all good. And I was listening to the new album uh, recently, just before, like about for the last hour or so. Um,
Oh,
this is
okay.
this is the second. You'll have to remind me what the name of the album is again. I apologize.
It's All My Dreams Came True.
All My Dreams Can Write. And the original, now is it pronounced Wretch or
Uh,
Wretch?
yeah, it's pronounced wretch, or that's how I say it. It's an old English word or Middle English word, so it'd be reek or like Rika or something like that.
Gotcha.
But I wouldn't bother with that. I call it wretch.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean on my podcast, I'm famous for mispronouncing names of bands, so I always, preface everything by saying I'm probably pronouncing this incorrectly. So, and then I just say it how I think it is, but
Yeah, yeah. No, it's all good, man. Wretch is right. Hang on, let me I gotta turn down the speaker here.
okay.
It's through my studio system, and so it's just kind of like I want to get it so it's a little quieter. Let's see if this works. Is this better? Could you say something?
Yeah, I mean I can still hear you. You just let me know if the levels are good.
Yeah, it's good now.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I was listening to the newest release. I guess it's coming out in May 14th.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
May
Yeah.
14th.
Um and it's what's interesting is it reminded me I had a guest on my show a few years ago and we were talking about what instruments do you need for something to be considered, like heavy metal or heavy. And we would try to find music from different genres because I mean the piano primarily is the main instrument that you're using.
Yeah, yeah, especially on the first album, the self-titled album, it was mostly piano with the synth sort of in the background, but this one I incorporated a lot of synth.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah, no, that's what. Yeah, synth piano, as opposed to more of a typical sort of guitar, bass, drums lineup. Um,
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
I mean, it was really great. I felt like the precision of the playing is really great. So it's sort of like I imagined if like Beethoven or Brahms or someone like that got into playing metal, that's sort of what it might sound like.
Well, that's a nice compliment. Yeah, I mean, I love Beethoven. I love Beethoven a lot. You know, he's my probably my favorite. Um, he's like the original metal. Actually, maybe Bach. Have you listened to some of Bach's
Oh
stuff?
yeah, yeah, absolutely, yeah. All
Yeah,
his fugue stuff is
yeah, yeah. It's crushing. It's amazing. Yeah.
well, it's interesting. I guess just with the way things are, people hear metal and they automatically assume that it's going to be sort of distorted guitars through some Marshall amps, and I guess they don't really necessarily think, well, now wait a second here, you can make metal with synth or piano or anything. It's all about just what you're going for here and how you're playing it.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And I think the first album more so than this one was a statement on that. Or
Right.
I still with the piano work on this one, like in songs like the very last one, La Fleur, or the Darkling Thrush, I really flexed on that idea that you
Gotcha.
could, like super heavy. But
Yeah, I definitely thought that was the first thing I thought of was, wow, this is really you know not something you would imagine being like if someone told you about, yeah, listen to this synth and piano music and it's going to blow you out of your chair. You're probably not going to assume it's going to be metal. So
right. Yeah, so there's a lot of jazz projects that I really love, that I look up to, especially contemporaries or like the Bad Plus or something like that. On Prague, they tried to emulate some sort of mathematic metal on like the second, I forget what the song is called, but so
what
there's a lot of crossover. Yeah.
yeah, no, well, I was going to say that was the second thing. um, when I listen to jazz, one of the things that I enjoy, or more progressive metal, is that it feels like there's a lot of improvisational quality to it, where it's going in a direction you're not sure.
Hmm.
A lot of sort of traditional or stoner metal and stuff is very hypnotic because it's the same chords.
Yeah,
They just keep playing the same riff over and over.
yeah,
So listening to your album, it was cool because I couldn't really tell where a lot of the songs were going. Or obviously certain things repeat, but for the most part, it was sort of like where is this headed? It was really cool. It was cool to follow the trajectory, and then I guess with the first, because you have LaFleur, is it one and two that are back to back?
yeah.
Okay, because the first one was seemed more of just like a classical piano style with less,
Yeah,
less.
sort of my John Wretch does like a Scriabin style, like lots of those little trills in there, but they're
Gotcha.
like that I'm trilling.
But then it's sort of the second song definitely, um, you know, raises all the levels a lot. So, but it was interesting how they sort of juxtaposed together. But yeah, a lot of trills, a lot of arpeggios. But but I mean, I mean, really, I think it's one of those things where there's so much going on in the song that it'll take, like, I'll have to listen to it a bunch of times to really sort of unpack everything that you're doing.
Yeah.
So I mean, which is great. I mean, it's great. I mean, I there are certain songs I love listening to because I know exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
There's sort of a comfort. But then there are other songs where it's like I have to listen to this multiple times because there's so many subtleties with it, and it's, I mean not complex, but there's a lot of technical things going on that I'll catch here and there.
Yeah, well, the hope is, that it gets better with age and more listens, and that it's a gift that keeps on giving. I mean, it's awesome if someone can get it right in the first listen, or at least if you can vibe with it on the first listen, that's great. But I hope that there's more to offer on
I
multiple.
definitely think there is, and it's one of those things where I think it's accessible. I think it'll take a few times to listen to it to really get all the nuances. But
Yeah,
then there's also music I've heard where it's difficult to, it's like a chore to sit through and try and figure everything out.
yeah,
So what's great is that with this latest album, and even the one from 2017, there was so much going on, but it was something I looked forward to going back to. And I think it, like you said, I think it will be the gift that keeps on giving with with
awesome.
something people can listen to all the time and find new things that are going on.
Yeah, that's the best I can hope for. Is that people can uncover. They might not unearth everything I stuck in there, but yeah, the hope is that you can continually listen to it. It will surprise you. And I think I on this album, I put a lot more effort into making it approachable for people. There's some songs that I think aren't like that. I guess you would call them hooks, or like pleasant melodies to introduce to the style. And then if you can grab onto this, then maybe I can take you just like a little bit further and a little bit further and a little bit further.
Yeah, well, I certainly got that impression that there's a lot going on, but it's like, yeah, like you had just said, it's people can easily approach the music, um, even if they don't, even if they're not necessarily like a fan of the genre outright. I think there's a lot going on for everyone. It's definitely an album that I could see myself recommending to people without saying, "Oh, by the way, you may not like this if you don't like this type of music." There's so much for everyone, I think.
Most likely, you know get into this stuff, but I would love it if other people that don't listen to metal were into it too, because I think there's something there.
But like you'd said, there are either hooks that are very melodic that are great, or there are other trills or arpeggios, or I just wanted to say arpeggio again. But there's a ton of stuff I think that people will discover. So it's one of those albums that I think will be great. You can listen to it for enjoyment, but you can also listen to it and kind of be challenged to keep finding new things.
Yeah, yeah, I think
So
so. Part of the
did
arpeggio.
you? I'm
Oh
sorry,
yeah,
go on.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna end. So I know you, I guess, played the drums on the album as well as the synth and piano and vocals. Uh,
Yeah, I did everything on it,
Gotcha.
including production in Oakland in like 2015. And I lived there for a couple years just to make that album sort of be closer to my family. And I didn't really like Los Angeles all that much, so I came back to Oakland around 2017 when that first album came out. And the drummer, we had moved to LA sort of together, but he remained down there with his fiance, and he has a job and everything. So working on this stuff remotely wasn't really going to work because the pieces were a little too complex to communicate that way over long distance. And visits between him and I were pretty limited, and I wasn't going to move my studio back down there to record him on the drums and kind of show him everything. um, so I ended up just doing it myself.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one of those. I guess you sort of have to adapt as you go along. Um,
Yeah, the intention wasn't to become like a one man black metal
right.
basement dweller project, even though I ended up being that thing in a way on this album. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of I think that's what a lot of bands have sort of had to deal with the pandemic is just sort of adapting to either writing music separately and then trying to coordinate with each other or practice separately, and you just sort of have to do what you have to do. But
yeah, yeah. But it was fun. We rented out this I rented out this huge like airplane hangar size warehouse because when the pandemic hit was right when I was recording the drum set. And I had my sister, she came down from Seattle to visit me, and this is right before the pandemic started. Then it hit, and then all these people stopped like renting rehearsal rooms, including this massive like sound stage down in West Oakland. So I was able to get that at a really good rate for a while, and we brought my whole entire studio over there and recorded the drums in that thing. So it was kind of a fun experience, you know.
yeah, well, silver linings with everything.
Yeah,
But
yeah, exactly.
yeah, no, I mean it's really cool. There were times where I kept trying to pick out like what was happening with with all the instruments. Like, is that? I think I can hear. Is it no? Is that? Yep, that's the piano. So but yet that's, I mean, that's cool that you were able to kind of get it done in a unique space like that as the pandemic was sort of happening.
I think too, like what you're saying about, is that this or is that this is sort of intentional with the production. I wanted everything to like melt together so that like, sure, some of the piano parts for me technically were difficult, and I wish I could like show them off to people. I spent hours and hours and days like rehearsing these parts just to get them like nailed on a recording. But ultimately, I wanted the songs to appear more as like arrangements with the synths and stuff like that. So the piano, a lot of the times, will take a back seat, even though I'm doing some sort of like ridiculous arpeggiation or like run or scale. Um, I just wanted them all to like meld together as one thing.
What did I mean? I think I kept one of the images I kept coming back to was sort of like it was very orchestral, where I felt like all of the instruments were working together like an orchestra, in a way that's what it felt like, rather than I was listening to a song that had been recorded. It was sort of like I felt like that experience was there. Um,
Oh,
you
that's
know
great.
that Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think all I'm hoping that all of the things you had intended to do with the album are things that I'm confirming happened, at least when I listened to it. But yeah, the sort of the melding of a classical style with more of a death metal or black metal type of feel to it. Um, the fact that it felt very much like a choral, an orchestra arrangement with, sometimes it was difficult, not difficult to tell what instruments were playing, but to sort of pinpoint what was happening in that at that exact moment. So
I think that has to do, also with this one is the first time I've really delved into using like a synth. And so the whatever patches I made on the synth, they're ugly and they're sort of maybe resemble orchestral parts, but I wanted it to not sound like a symphony per se, but something where these synths are just like it's hard to pinpoint what they are.
yeah,
They're
what again? I think this album definitely you executed everything well. I think it all sounds great. Um, I think what you had hoped for or intended with the arrangements for the songs, came through in its production. So,
awesome.
and I mean, yeah, the it was one of those things where I sat down and listened to it, and there were certain things where I was like, oh, that's a really cool, choice or sound. But most of the time, it was like I'm gonna have to listen to this again to really figure out what's happening because there's a lot happening right now that I'm just not certain of. In a good way though. Now it wasn't like confusing, but
Yeah, that's
it
good.
was it was more just like, wow, there's depth to this that I'm gonna need to kind of unpack, um, and I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to doing that.
Oh,
So,
that's great. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, the hope is that you can see the structure, the narrative is there, and then if you want to dig further, you can, and hopefully it's an enjoyable way to, you brings you joy or you find parts that you really like. What happens when I listen to new music? I don't get everything right off the bat. And it's like,
well,
but
that's
after
yeah. I
the
found
time,
that's the a
oh,
lot of the time that's the best. The enjoyment is just making those new discoveries. Or listening to something more than once, and needing to go back because you want to hear it a few more times.
yeah, it could take place over the course of years. In my case, I've listened to like all the Beethoven sonatas a million times over the last so many years. And like one day, one of these sonatas will hit me, and I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever written. And I'd heard that same piece, like, sort of live, where I can switch back and forth between the synth and the piano. And since I don't have a drummer up here in this past year and a half or whatever, we haven't been able to socialize really. I'll be looking for a drummer to do it, and before that, I'll just have it. I'll just use the drum tracks when I play live and do the vocals and stuff. So I'm working on that right now, and I'm going back through each piece and like relearning it on the piano because luckily, like, well, the way I write is I'll notate all of it in like Sibelius, so I can play it exactly as I had it. But I still want to leave gaps and rooms to like, um, I don't know, do something new with them. You can have the record, and the record's its own thing, but live, I want it to be a different experience.
Yeah,
And other than that, I'm working on a lot of solo piano pieces right now. I'm doing all the Satie, No CNs, and Gymnopedies for just a solo piano album. And then I have like about another 40-minute solo piano album of original compositions that are a lot more mellow, I guess.
gotcha.
Working on that stuff at the moment. And I do have a good start, like two or three songs for the next Wretch album as
That's
well. So
great.
hoping to jump in on that in the summer.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it'll be great to have more mellow piano stuff to look forward to, and another Wretch album. Um, you're covering sort of all the genres, so that'll be great. But
Yeah, I got a lot of different tastes, and you know,
yeah, me too. I'm a fan of a ton of different types of music. It's always nice to keep everything varied.
yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to being able to tell my friends, hey, you should definitely give this album a listen. There's a ton of stuff going on there. If you're into, no matter what music you're into, you'll find something that you can enjoy. Um, and if there are drummers in the Oakland area, we can tell them to contact you if they,
Yeah,
if they're looking for new stuff.
they're
And
looking at doing blast beats for 9 or 10 minutes straight.
you never know.
Yeah,
Stranger things have happened, but
yeah.
um, but yeah, no, I'm looking forward to jumping back into this music. And good luck with everything. And
Oh, much. Yeah,
thank you, yeah, thank you for speaking with me. And the new album will be out next month,
yeah.
so
May
people should. I'm sorry, May
14.
14th. That's right. Yeah, May 14th. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely pre-order it or get it when it comes out, whatever you can. But be on the lookout for stuff by Wreche, and then other music from John that's that'll be coming out at some point.
Yeah. Hope
And
maybe. Yeah.
but yeah, well, thank you so much. We will be in touch, and good luck with everything.
Yeah. Thank you, Andrew. I
And
appreciate it.
yeah, of
Very.
course, take care.
Okay. You too.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.